On the World Wide Web and beyond, there are countless tier lists and rankings of all of the plants in the original Plants vs Zombies, but the antagonists don't get such rankings nearly as much, so this ranking today centres on the bad guys. This ranking is purely subjective, not ranked from easiest to hardest, least to most annoying. It's just how good I think they are regarding their design, the game's mechanics, how memorable they are, etc. This list is only for zombies in the Suburban Almanac, so Zombotany zombies and version exclusive ones have been omitted. I'm Gold Ninja Vlogspot, let's get going. Rock bottom of the list at number 26 is Balloon Zombie. This helium enhanced hipster comes in last place simply because it forces you to use one of two plants. There's some plants that are designed to counter certain zombies, but having a mandatory choice of two is not a good call, especially when both these plants are pretty rubbish. Cactus is probably the worst adventure plant in the game outside of levels with the Balloon Zombie, and Blover does his job well, I guess. Still, despite being far less useful compared to the sequel, he costs more sun here. And for me, his second function is overshadowed by a plantain because I need permanent visibility. Sure, there is a third plant that is good by himself and can basically solo a colony of balloons, but even if you do have cattail bought the first time you play Fog and Adventure, he ain't cheap, and you have the option of explosives, but that doesn't improve the zombie's design at all. Overall, a heavily flawed zombie that confines one of three plants to your setup. Second last is Snorkel Zombie. As iconic as he may be, becoming the first zombie outside the basic squad to return in PVZ 2, this guy is low down for similar reasons. Sure, he has more counters than the balloons. Lob shot plants, which were unlocked after the pool stage, so in the meantime your only real option is walnut, which brings them out of water, but if a zombie requires a defensive plant to be countered, maybe they weren't well designed. You're given Tangle Kelp as a potential counter, but he recharges too slowly to keep up with the rate that the water travellers spawn. At least he looks cool in this game, compared to his pretty lousy visuals in PVZ 2. 24. Ducky Tube Zombie. I mean, the ducky tubes look cool and all, but why do the zombies even need them if they can't drown? They're literally just OG Zombie and his variants, so it just feels like a lazy way to add more zombies to the pool stage. They could have at least made them look different to their standard counterparts like Swashbuckler in the sequel. Next is Bungee Zombie. This one has a great idea that is generally executed well. He steals a plant, accompanied by a red marker which tells you what plant he's taking away. My problem is he has way too much health. The power in PVZ 2 has the same gimmick, but you have a lot more time to kill him while flying, and you can dispatch of his captain. Bungee is hard countered by Umbrella Leaf and insta-kills work, but that's easier said than done. He also acts as a stage ambush, dropping zombies in, which gives him a couple of points. 22 is Digger Zombie. Another zombie who's way too tanky for what he is that was remedied with his replacement in the sequel. His health is on the lower end of the medium scale, but he can still eat the backmost plants even with a split pea on him. There's ways around this, such as pumpkin strats, but it devalues Split Pea considerably since him not reliably sorting out the zombie he's intended to counter throws a spanner into the gameplay loop. Design wise though, he's way up there, and served as an inspiration for Engineer in the Garden Warfare games, so that's nice. 21 is Screen Door Zombie. Basically a buckethead, but his protection is solely for his frontal region, meaning you can get around him with piercers or lobbers. He's pretty influential at the first ever shielded zombie, but he really could have done with a redesign, like this one in the Great Wall Edition. It's just boring. Number 20 is the Bobsled Team. This is a collective group of 4 zombies that arrive on a bobsled on ice trails left by Zomboni. The bobsled can be destroyed to prevent it from getting too far into the lawn, and are essentially 4 regular zombies, so crowd control is helpful. And they also have a dedicated minigame where ice does not melt on its own, adding to the challenge. Going into the teens, and first is Pogo Zombie. This low ranking isn't really justified as I don't have anything against the Pogo Zombie, except for the fact that Almanac doesn't even tell you he cannot be frozen. He's just annoying. Yeah, he's annoying, although it's pretty much the reason Magnitude was introduced, so that's something. Next, Newspaper Zombie. The first zombie introduced in the night, he's the first zombie in the series to gain a speed boost once he loses his armour. A tactic that would be rehashed for Pharaoh Zombie in the sequel, among others, including the newspaper himself who was injected with roids upon his grand return, because yeah, he's dangerous. Compared to the OG, who is arguably the least threatening non-basic zombie. All in all, the guy in the Love Heart boxers has a cool design, funny animations, an almanac entry that gives the lore as to why he blows a gasket when you destroy his paper, and I'm 90% sure his design inspired physicists in the shooters. 17 is Backup Dancer. Summoned by the dancing zombie, these guys, just like the dancer himself, had to be redesigned in 2010, due to an objection by the estate of Michael Jackson after the singer's death. They're summoned in groups of 4 and give fume shrooms more use due to their penetration. He now possesses a moustache and is one of 2 zombies to feature on, the other being Ladder Zombie. Basically a reskin of Pogo, right? His tool can be nicked by a magnet shroom, he has medium toughness, counters tool nuts. Yep, he can place his ladder on a defensive plant to allow him and other zombies to walk over them. This can be remedied with explosives, and his ladder is basically a shield, so you can brute force it or use lobbers or pierces to hit him directly, but you can just use good old magnets. Overall, a fun zombie with several different counters. Now, Jack in the Box zombie. This guy shivers. Not because he's cold, but because he's crazy. And has some of the best animations and sound effects in the game. If you can put up with a tinny rendition of Pop Goes the Weasel sounding constantly. His gimmick of self-destructing to blow up a plant is interesting, but it rarely has an impact due to the zombie's lack of health, even with his small chance of detonating prematurely. That being said, he can serve as a distraction for Magnet Shroom and protect more dangerous zombies on the lawn. 14 is Flag Zombie. The first of the Fantastic Four, this dude didn't even need to be in the game, as he doesn't really add anything, but he does act as the leader of a huge wave of zombies, bring them into the battlefield, which is cool. And he's appeared in all of the mainline games, barring Adventures. Also, unlike in the sequel, he moves slightly faster than the basic zombie. Also, on the Game of the Year edition, his appearance can be changed to reflect the zombatar the player created. Unlucky 13 is the Dolphin Rider zombie. An enhanced pole vaulter, this guy charges in the water with great speed and jumps over the first plant he encounters. He also gets some pretty good sound effects, including the classic dolphin noise because he's a very foul-mouthed geezer. And Tool Nut is his kryptonite, though you can usually just use an empty lily pad instead to bait him. Cool design, cool gimmick. 12 is Catapult Zombie. This basket case is probably the most lethargic zombie in the game, as he just sits back lobbing basketballs at your plants. Interestingly, he targets the backmost plants first, which vindicates all the filthy casuals that prefer to plant producers behind attackers. He will drive down and flatten your plants when the lane is empty or he's fired 20 basketballs, but for some reason on the DS version he fires about 6 balls before charging, so he's arguably harder on the low res edition. He's the second of the 2 zombies that can be thwarted by Umbrella Leaf, and by far the superior one. He's even smart enough to target plants inside pumpkins before going for the Halloween ornamental vegetable. Just missing out on the top 10 is Pole Vaulting Zombie. The sole special zombie introduced on the day stage, he's the first vault style enemy and lay the ground for the others to follow, like the Olympic hero that he is. While he sounds easy and generally is quite easy to deal with, he can be troublesome right when you think you've got the perfect setup, and in tougher modes such as Last Stand and Survival, he can slip through the cracks and bypass your defensive plants. Also, unlike Ladder and Pogo, he can't be countered by a magnet. Cracking the Big 10 is the Imp. This section of the ranking is where we cover the classics, the icons of Plants vs Zombies, and first of all is the little guy. He's basically a weaker version of the standard zombie, thrown by gargantuars, and unlike in the second game where he always throws them in the third column, the amount of space ahead is fixed as opposed to the column, so he can be thrown to the back column, though he won't be thrown if the garg is within 5 columns of your house. Also in iZombie, the Imp is reworked so he moves very fast but dies in 3 regular damage shots, which differentiate him from the basic zombie. And speaking of, 9 is the Zombie. Yep, no forename in this game. The later dubbed basic zombie or Bronco zombie is the Trailblazer, the Pioneer, the first of thousands. He's got a pretty good design, wearing ripped jeans, a blazer and a tie, and he has 2 different idle animations, and some also stick their tongue out. On top of this, he has a very small chance of having a slightly faster walking speed than average. 8 is Conehead Zombie. An upgraded regular zombie, he wears a road cone to give him armour, despite the fact that some plants don't even hit his head. Makes sense, I guess, but he served as the first medium health enemy, and while he's easy to take down with 2 pea shooters, he can be a bit of a pain in the arse in fog levels in particular, since you may not realise he has the cone until he emerges out of the fog. 7 is the Buckethead Zombie. The rudimentary high health zombie. This guy needs a bit more work to kill without using an instant, with at least 3 pea shooters or an equivalent force to kill him. While Magnus Room exists, you only get him at the end of the 4th stage, and usually he needs to focus on neutralising more dangerous zombies, so you should build up your attackers enough to brute force the buckethead. 6 is the Zombie Yeti, the rarest zombie in the game. This guy is guaranteed the second time you play through the final fog stage, in which he rewards you handsomely. Unless he runs away, in which case, sucks to be you. He has a very rare chance of appearing in any level, but in all the time I've been playing the game, I think I've only ever seen him twice outside of 410. Regardless, he has one of the best almanac entries and reappeared in almost every future game in the franchise. Cracking the big 5 is Zomboni, the first instant killing enemy in the franchise. This guy drives a Zamboni vehicle to flatten your plants and creates an ice trail that can't be planted on, so you have to melt the ice with a jalapeno or wait for it to go away on its own. He also brings in the Spiderweed's ability to counter rolling objects, and for some reason I find it really fun to destroy them with a squash. Also, this Space Ogre's almanac entry had to get changed to avoid a potential legal dispute with the Zamboni company. Oh, the old superior almanac entry. 4th place is Dr. Zombos. The main antagonist in the game is finally fought in the final boss fight, in which he can spawn the majority of zombies previously encountered, summon fire and ice balls and crush a bunch of plants with a van. It's a very enjoyable conclusion to the adventure, and he returns in Dr. Zombos' Revenge, where he's considerably tougher. He also appears in the DS only minigame Air Raid, where he's one truly tough SOB and can attack with spanners. 3rd place is Gargantuar. This guy really is kind of a big deal, and is the final regular enemy introduced in the 3rd last roof level. He's a fixture in every game since, most notably in the sequel where he feels like a joke half of the time due to plant food and the amount of OP plants in the game, though he did get a buff movement speed. Also, he doesn't always carry his trademark telephone pole. He can also wield a wildlife sign or even a dead regular zombie, which is honestly peak PVZ humour. Great concept, feels good to beat, no complaints here outside with thrown in being a little unfair at times. Hey now, it's Football Zombie. An enhanced buckethead with a greater movement speed. This guy is one of the biggest threats in the game, until you get Magnus Room, but still. His running animation is wonderfully goofy, his signature red design is iconic, and he's appeared in most future games, typically with a superior name All-Star. In the sequel, he's a dangerous instant killer. In the shooters, he's one of the playable zombie classes with a ton of spore-specific variants, and he's also a card in Heroes, which reuses his almanac gag from the first game. A quintessential zombie through and through. And number 1 is Dancing Zombie. Hailing straight from the Boogie Wonderland, this guy starts the party on your lawn with his dance companions to swarm your mushroom defense. He has probably the single best lawn entry animation in the franchise, where he moonwalks in. And yes, now I'm going to have to discuss the elephant in the room. Sure, he had to be redesigned from the Michael Jackson spoof, and some may argue he doesn't deserve a top spot anymore now he's no longer a thriller, but I have to disagree. Even with the redesign, he's still the ultimate zombie in the original game. In fact, he's arguably more iconic in his Disco Stew-like redesign, having appeared in several games since, including in jetpack form. His gimmick and health provide a challenge, but aren't unfair in any way. His music upon entry slaps, both of his designs are brilliant. All in all, Disco Stew is the cherry bomb of zombies. That's my list. What's your favourite zombie? Tell me about it in the comment section below. Remember to hit like and subscribe, join my Discord server, I'm GMVS, thanks for watching.